Hi guys, welcome back. This video will be talking about JSON, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So JSON is not a programming language. It's a subsystem of JavaScript and is written in a similar manner that programmers that knows JavaScript, that knows C, C++, Python, and others probably can understand very easily, is meant to exchange data one source from a source to a destination. JSON is an XML format. So generally JSON is used when the front end, so JavaScript, HTML, CSS, go to talk with the backend that talks with the database, and inside the database it retrieves this JSON format that is sent back and forth, manipulated to retrieve data. Okay. Anyway, this is a JSON file, very simply, in a very simple way. I didn't I wanted to show you that a JSON file can be infinite. Anyway, I have this small thing. Maybe in this way, it passes it doesn't pass the image that the JSON is a huge text that only a machine can read, and that sometimes is huge to be sent and read. Anyway, you can see that there are objects here, just like a JavaScript object, but there is something different, a little different. First of all, in the key value pairs of the objects in JavaScript, the key doesn't have a square bracket, a double quote. Sorry, but here they have double quotes. And even normally in JavaScript, if we use single quotes, it wouldn't throw an error, but it throws an error. These are the two main differences between JSON and JavaScript. So you have to remember that these two things they differ from JavaScript, and for the rest is the same. We can have a normal JSON string object which becomes a string, because in this way if it's read by the machine, they read it as a string. Or it can even be an array, a JSON array. So right now we have this array of classes. I just printed the class again, but you can have an array. So it starts with a square with the square brackets. Here it starts with the square brackets. Just do this one just with the curly braces, parentheses. Okay. Okay, so this is JSON, and this is what I wanted to show. Now I just want to. You will probably say, why is it so simple? That's it? No, of course you would ask to me, Paolo, how do I use JSON? We can exchange JSON using methods that are mainly they are true, and they are not meant to exchange JSON. They are meant to exchange any kind of things, any kind of format. They communicate with endpoints, databases, and but now we will see it only for JSON, and later on in the videos we will see them for all other purposes also. Anyway. Here we have a function that is called XML HTTP request. Then we will see the other possibility is the fetch API, which is written on which is quite different and more modern. And last, there is Axios, which is a library built on top of XML HTTP request. It makes it simpler to use, but we will not see it. So because I can't do everything. Anyway, here we have we are defining a function which is called rec, which is a new XML HTTP request. So a new is a new object that is a XML HTTP request. This XML HTTP request will perform the action to retrieve our what we want. So our class JSON in our case. We are adding 2 event listeners. I forgot to actually, we add 1 event listener, okay? 1 event listener, which is called onload, which is an onload event. It triggers this function, which console log what we want. Anyway, onload, it triggers this event. At the same time, rec open, we are using the rec, which stands for XML HTTP request dot open, is opening a connection. Sounds like open establishes a connection. Actually, it's not true. It's preparing the connection to be sent. And it's using the get method, which we didn't talk. There is methods to HTTP methods. There is get, post, and others. It's not the time to talk about it. Anyway, it's this is the way we are going to communicate. This is how with whom we're going to communicate. So the class.json path. And then this is another thing that I should have cancelled. And we will talk about it later on, just a few seconds. And then last, it will send the request. So before it prepares it, and then it sends it. Boom. And this is, in a nutshell, the new XML HTTP request. And it's quite complicated, I know, and it can get even much more complicated than this. Anyway, we can just save the file as it is, and the goal now, what it should do is to console.log this response text. So class.json will be on our on our console. Okay, so now let's open the live server. Okay, we inspect, and you can see in our console we have a string that is our JSON. Of course, we can do something with it, but you can do something with it. It's not. This is just the beginning. No, we get the data that we wanted. Other things that I want to say about XML HTTP request is that we can add a true or false. Actually, there are 5 parameters here. A true or false, which stands if you want to handle the connection asynchronously, then you write true. Synchronously, then you write false. And this will be the topic of the next video, so I don't say anything more. But there is another parameter, and actually there are other parameters, which is like a username and a password, which is definitely not the topic. But in some cases, you want to send this kind of request during a login session, no? And so you might find that you are using someone is using the open method with much more parameters than you expect. Of course, generally, true is the default, and so you just leave 2 parameters. Another thing, we can add other event listeners, and now I'm going to take the guide for this. Okay, so as you can see here, we have some events that we can add on our add event listeners, like progress, load start, load end, load, error, abort. They all do something different, and the name suggests what they do, and there is no time to talk about all of them. I just wanted to tell you we can add something like this, and of course here I added a load end. So when it finished to load, we have added an event listener. So on a load end, we trigger a function. So we add this function, which is our X function here, that alerts us pages end. Okay, doesn't matter what I wrote. So immediately after I open the page, um, you can see that here this square things. Okay. Okay. This was just a little introduction about XML HTTP request. We will really return on this topic after I talk theoretically about asynchronous and synchronous. The other thing that I want just to show you right now before you see my following videos is the fetch API, which is definitely, I just want to show you that is definitely more simple. But this doesn't mean that you shouldn't use XML HTTP request if you find troublesome to use fetch, because they do the same thing. So there is no reason why you shouldn't use XML HTTP request. But this fetch is doing the same thing in 3 lines what we did in 7, 8 lines. Okay, because fetch, like the English word says, is retrieving the class.json, and then response.json. I save the file here, and I can just easily we have an object. Right now, actually, incredibly, the array, the JSON file has been also already parsed and transformed into a JSON object using the fetch API, something that we could have reached here in a very similar way using adding a response type or using the JSON parse to the request listener. Anyway, let's not say anything more. Last thing that I can say in this video is that here we have a code that nobody would like to write really, and that does the same thing. That does the same thing as the one I just wrote, but is using the async and await. Async and await is using fetch, but is using async and await. And this is like an introduction to the next topic, because the following video we will talk about async and await. And as you see, we have async, which stands for asynchronous, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I comment out the rest of the code. We can come here. Okay, and still it retrieves the same object, so it's still working fine. Okay, this is all for this lesson about JSON. That was more about how to use JSON, that JSON itself, which is just a way of writing things. Thank you very much for watching, keep following, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.